welcome back to another TFT Masterclass. Today we are going to be talking about the B patch that just dropped just a few hours ago. What are the best 5 comps to play and gain LP? I'm Upsetmax, this is with Fit Gaming Training Grounds, and we're going to get straight into it. Make sure to check out the description and the pinned comment for how to enter the raffle for the chance to win the prize. Alright, so let's dive straight into the comps. We have 5 today that we will be talking about on the current patch 14.8b. We will be talking about the new adjusted Heavenly line, so Heavenly Kayn / Lee Sin, No More Yone, Porcelain Ashe, Mythic Lillia, the Irelia legendary board, and then last but not least, the Bruiser / Dragonlord Kaisa board to finish off. Of course, we probably know this board by now. We've been playing it all the time for the past 2 days, and we'll talk about what has changed and when it is playable. So what is the point of this video? Basically, there's been a couple major changes from the B patch. We'll even go quickly over what those changes were. And this video is basically here to help you figure out what are the new best comps based off of the new buffs and the new nerfs, and what units and augments to pick. At the very end, we'll do a quick recap and do a Q&A session for those who are in the voice channel watching this live. Alright, so let's quickly go over the changes they made in the patch. So the first one is they lowered the base luck per loss for fortune starting stage 3. So a common strategy was to tempo stage 2. You didn't even need to 5 streak, you just need to save HP, and then essentially trade your HP as a resource and play fortune on stage 3, so that way you're able to get a lot of different resources through gold, through items, even like tomes, etc., and just use your HP as a resource in exchange for that strength. So now the fortune stage 3 strategy has been nerfed a little bit. It's a little bit weaker, and you will be getting less of a cash out starting stage 4. What else has been changed? The Gnar line has been nerfed, so the Gnar 80, passive 80 per stack has been lowered, same. And then the max stacks were increased, so Gnar is no longer gaining so much AD in such a quick span of time. And then the entire Trickshot line was nerfed. Teemo's ability damage has been decreased, Kai'Sa's damage has been decreased, even Orange Shield has been decreased, and then also Xayah's ability damage has been decreased as well. So the entire, almost the entire Trickshot line in regards for the key units have been nerfed. So the composition definitely took a hit, and we'll talk about at the very end when it is still playable and if it is still playable. Very last thing they've changed is the Irelia targeting from the previous patch. So now Irelia is no longer just randomly killing the enemy backline. Now she will be targeting the nearest enemy units. So this really affected her spots, and they have increased her base AD by 5 as compensation, which is a pretty big deal. Remember, this is base AD, so it has a lot of scaling to it for her kits. So these are the main changes, and we'll talk about how they affect the current comps in the meta. So the first one, Heavenly Kayn / Lee Sin. This was one of the main 4-cost comps that did benefit a lot from the 4-cost health changes and even just overall buffs, and it did not receive a nerf and was not touched in the current B patch that just dropped. So still very good comp. It is a level 8 tempo comp, so you're going to want to be playing this from like a Heavenly opener. You want to be tempoing with Darius, slamming your BT, slamming your Titans, hopefully win streaking. This is a physical damage composition, which means that you require Sunder. And we have 2 main carries here, Kayn, who is more of our assassin attack damage reaper, and Lee Sin, more of our attack damage bruiser / fighter. They use different items. I'll talk about them on the next slide. So here is what our board is going to look like. This is a level 8 board where our main carries are 4 costs. So now instead of playing Yone on level 7, we are just going to be playing around Lee Sin and Kayn on level 8 and having the Heavenly trait buff them all up. So Kayn's best in slot, Edgenite is an amazing item on Kayn. Not only does it give you a target drop, first off, Kayn is a lot less tanky than Lee Sin. Lee Sin has a shield based from his ability, but Kayn does not. Kayn is just pure damage, right? So Edgenite is very good having that aggro drop. Also, Kayn's spin is based off of his attack speed. So getting that extra attack speed once he comes out of that Edge of Night aggro drop is very good. So we have our aggro drop and a little bit of attack speed. We need healing, so this is in the form of either Hand of Justice / Hodge or BT, so Bloodthirster, and then we'll finish off with some damage, either Last Whisper, Giant Slayer, or Titans, depending on our item economy. Lee Sin unfortunately gets the leftover bruiser items, so Sterix, very good, Bloodthirster, Even Shroud. If you have Even Shroud, then you don't need to build Last Whisper, and you can build something else with that bow. Giant Slayer is very good as well, Edge of Night, and Titans as well. So Be sure to prioritize your Kayn items, and then whatever is left will go over to Lee Sin. And all of these items are very good on Darius early, so you can play like a Heavenly Duelist Behemoth board early with your Darius, and then transition to this from tempo just through 6, 7, 8. And once you're level 8 on either 4-2 or 4-5, transition over to this board, have Morgana in the backline, and give her healing reduction, so Morello, and then some source of mana gen in order to cast more frequently. As you can see here in the bottom left corner, there were a lot of buffs going over to these 4-cost units. 200 free HP over to the Kayn, and also 250 HP over to Lee Sin, along with 5 extra base AD. So very good comp. This is what it looks like. And in regards of position, you just need to make sure that your Kayn and Lee Sin do not get stuck on the main enemy tank while taking damage from the enemy carry. So be sure to position away from any super tanks such as Gallios or Orns. So that is what the board looks like, and then augments to go along with this composition. Because this is a vertical heavenly comp, heavenly crest or crown is going to be amazing. It will give us the omnivamp from that emblem, and eventually we can fit in 7 heavenly. Although 7 heavenly did take a hit, the vertical trait is still extremely strong. Because we are running melee carries, support items are going to buff them very, very well. Either extra resistances, extra attack speed, extra healing, extra attack speed, support. So support, cash, and stationary support is extremely good. And then last but not least, divine rolls. We have the heavenly units. Just make sure to put in your heavenly units only, along with some form of damage if you can't beat the minion rounds on minion rounds, to ensure you get as many rolls as possible starting the next stage. And then combat augments in general are extremely good. So unified resistance, tiny bit deadly, inspiring epitaph, gifts from the fallen. These are just some examples that are very good. Other ones such as combat caster, harm assist are very good as well. So very good comp. Once you are able to hit everything on level 8, which is actually a fairly cheap board. You don't even need Morgana 2. It's mainly you need Kayn and Lee Sin 2. So don't worry too much about Morgana or rolling for her when you're still level 8. You could go level 9 and then play some legendaries off of that. And once you hit that Wukong 2, itemize them, hopefully with like a Thieves Gloves or a BT blue buff, you are in a very good spot. Alright, so that is the first comp, Heavenly Kayn / Lee Sin. Definitely give it a try, doing very well right now, and will do even better now that the main comp, such as Kai'Sa, has been nerfed. The second one, same situation. So Ashe has received some buffs in the previous patch. Not only was her HP increased, but her mana was adjusted in a buff. So now she is able to cast faster on her first cast and also more frequently. Ashe is now going to rise up because Kai'Sa has been nerfed, so we'll talk about it here. We're going to be talking about the Porcelain Sniper's Ashe composition, which is also a level 8 comp, and this is mainly a physical damage comp. We do get some magic damage later into the game, but we still want to be building Last Whisper or even Shroud, and this cap's extremely high because of Lysandra being able to farm us units, and also this Lysandra unit just got buffed as well and is already an amazing unit. 6 Porcelain got nerfed a little bit. However, we will most likely just be playing 4 Porcelain most of the time, and that was untouched, so this comp is still fine, and we'll be playing Sniper as usual. So that is a quick intro into what Porcelain Ashe is, and this is what ideally your board will look like. So we can be playing 4 Arcanists, 4 Porcelain, 3 Faded, and 2 Snipers. The one condition, or I guess 2 conditions, is we do need some legendary units in order to hit this board. If we do not hit the Set and the Lysandra, we'll just have to play flex units until we hit them. And ideally we have a Porcelain +1. This is not always the case. This is an example if you don't hit a Porcelain +1, but if you do, then you are able to drop the Lux, just play 3 Arcanists, it's fine, and then play a Nautilus instead for 4 Warden frontline. Ashe's best in slots, so you want at least 2 attack speed items on her, preferably either Rage Blade or Red Buff, Rage Blade plus Runons. Doesn't have to be too specific. Red Buff is very good on her for healing reduction, but you want to have some form of attack speed on her, along with a Rage Blade, preferably. Blaster is extremely good on her as well. Gunblade, IE, DB, these are all acceptable options. Ideally, you want to roll on level 8 and prioritize a Amumu 3. If you're able to hit Alawi 3 as well, that's extremely good, but that is not always the case. So prioritize your Amumu 3 because we want to be playing 4 Porcelain. And once you have Faded in, you want to be linking Set and Syndra. Aphelios is not a main part of this composition unless somehow you have an extra set of AD items, which is mostly not going to be the case based off your item economy. And you'll be getting that Omnivamp and extra 33 or extra percentage bonus damage from licking Syndra and your Set. And as you see here in the bottom left, there are some new buffs over to Ashe. So not only does she gain 200 extra HP, which is insane, her mana has been adjusted as well to help the unit. Okay, so this is what the composition looks like. If we don't hit Lysandra and set, then we could just play a Nautilus instead, and then just other flex unit. You could even play a random Kayn 2, and then same side your ghostly units to help out your Ashe. But ideally, this is what you have, and then once you go level 9, if you are still playing this board, then you could just fit in a Nautilus for 4 Arcanist, 4 Warden, 4 Porcelain, and just start farming items from your Lysandra. So super good comp. This was not that great this current or this previous patch because Kai'Sa just melted all over it. But now that Kai'Sa has been nerfed, there is some time for Ashe to shine. Some final best in slot augments for this composition. Porcelain Crest / Crown is going to be very good, able to fit everything very well on level 8, and we don't have to play the Lux, and 4 Arcanist is not that big of a, big of a deal. Pumping up extra attack speed for our Ashe is extremely good, and other combat augments like Martyr, Harm Assist, Gifts, Unified, Tiny, Stationary Support, Inspiring, these are all very good. Boiling Point recently got nerfed quite hard, so I don't really recommend it. It's okay to just build a red buff instead. So that is the Porcelain Ashe comp. We're going to talk about a composition that technically has been around but has never been that great of a composition until it has received a lot of buffs. So Mythic Lillia, this is going to be a level 8 comp. All the comps we're talking about today are standard level 8 boards where you are going level 8 on stage 4, most of the time stage 4-2, and rolling to stabilize with a 4-cost carry. Rerolling has took a hit. Perhaps we'll do a top 5 comp or top 5 reroll comps to do later, but for now we're just talking about standard comps. This is a magic damage composition, which is stalling and has a lot of AoE built in, and it is best with either a Mythic or an Invoker +1. So I'll show you what the board looks like here. This is with a Mythic +1. If we do not have a Mythic +1, then we just drop either Nico or Hui, depending on what we have, and play a Silas instead. And if we do not have a Azir, which we most of the time we won't, we have to play for the Lolo, right? Then we just play a Loon instead, and the Loon synergizes with Silas for our Umbral. So this is the best case scenario. This is what we want to hope for. However, we will not always have this case, and that is what you would play instead. In the Mythic Lillia board, you need to have 4 Invoker. It is not... If you do not have 4 Invoker, you do need a Shojin on Lillia, and we do not want to be building Shojin on Lillia. So having 4 Invoker means that we can either build a blue buff, which is a lot better than Shojin, just stat-wise, or an adaptive. Same thing. So since we have 4 Invoker, we could build either a blue buff or adaptive, and then we have +2. We do ideally want a Gunblade and then a damage item. And then that damage item can be Rabadon's, Archangel, or Jewel Gauntlet. So this is going to be your Lillia Abyss. Because we need 4 turns for our Mythic units to activate or become epic, you want to be fielding them ASAP, so then we are able to spike a lot harder and hopefully start winning out stage 4. As I mentioned, if we do not have the Azir, then we could just play a Loon instead, and it's actually pretty good. Not only does it give our Lillia extra attack speed on the Loon cast, the Loon will also give 20% shred, which is not as much as a static shiv or a spark, which is 30, but that is still better than nothing. And then, as I mentioned at the start, if we do not have a Mythic +1 or an Evoker +1, depending on what we have, we would just play the other of Nico or Hui, and then play a Silas and then an Loon. So, and then the very last thing in the bottom right here, look at this abundance of buffs. So Annie, extra 200 HP, Nautilus, extra 200 HP, Nautilus's mana has been decreased by 20, Lillia, extra 200 HP, and extra damage buffs on her ability damage and her small orbs damage. So all the 4 costs in this composition have been buffed. It is an insane amount of extra HP just for free. And now, once again, now that Kai'Sa is no longer dominating the meta, this allows for other compositions to really flourish. So this is what the board will look like. Make sure you have some sort of healing reduction, but do not put it on your Lillia. Someone else can hold it. And then best in slot augments. So either a Mythic Crest or an Invoker Crest / Crown. It's going to be epic to give you some extra HP. And since we are playing vertical Mythic, we will be able to benefit from this a lot. And you can even just play the Cho'Gath early just for the augment. Little buddies, Unified Resistance, Unleash Arcana, Jewel, Lotus 3, Combat Caster, Martyr, Magic Wand are all great options as well. So give it a try if you have the spots, and I think it'll work out quite well. Okay, we have seen this comp before. I will touch upon it very quickly, mainly about the changes. So this is level 8 to 9 board. It's mainly physical damage composition. It is nerfed. It's still strong in some spots. I think you would ideally play this if you have a fortune cash out, and it is no longer by any means the default comp that you go to every game. So this is what our two boards look like. We are going to be defaulting the bruiser variation most of the time. Most of the time you're not able to go level 9 and or at least not right away and roll for this Dragonlord board. So we're going to be playing our 4 bruiser, 4 trick shot because it is very easy to accomplish. And then on level 9 we'd play Udyr if we're level 8, which is going to be most of the time. We just don't play the Udyr. Highest best in slot, we know this. Last Whisper, Infinity Edge +1, either your Tattoo or a Giant Slayer or a Death Blade, and then put your healing reduction either on your Xayah or Teemo if you high roll the Xayah. And if you don't have a Xayah, then you just play Bard instead. So I won't touch too much upon this. The composition, I think it's still going to be playable. Definitely not just defaulting to this composition if you have no direction in the game. I think there are a lot of other 4-cost compositions like that you could play. So if you have 80 items, then Ashe is definitely still playable. The 4 Dragonlord version, I think still caps out quite high. It's still very strong if you are able to get to it. But just remember, Kai'Sa, Xayah, Ornn all got nerfs as well. And then the augments that we've taken, like Little Buddies was very good in the Bruiser variation just because we didn't play any 3 costs. So we either had Little Buddies or we had Big Buddies. And then any combat augments really help us out, like Ricochet, Jewel, Lotus, Martyr. Most of these 4 cost standard compositions, we don't need econ augments for generally. We could take an econ augment or even like a half econ augment. So like if it's a silver, they could take iron assets. It's fine. It gives you a little bit of gold and some components. But we're not taking any like heavy reroll augments because we're not rerolling. So just go for any generic combat augment that makes sense for your board and is able to spike you for the time. Although Fortune did get nerfed, it's still a good trait. You are still able to cash out some like quite powerful rewards, and if you're playing up even like a fawn or even up like 20 gold from your opponents or up like a support item or a blacksmith's gloves, it's still very good. So you can still definitely play Fortune early and then transition into this quite easily with your Teemo. Still definitely an option. It's just not as oppressive as before. And then our final comp that we will be talking about, mainly from our Irelia buffs, this is our level 9 fast 9 board. You want to play this from a tempo start, econ augment or a region, or transition into this from a fortune. Remember with fortune, you ideally want to be cashing out higher than a 50 hex. Is when 50 for the fortune cash out is when you are able to get a fawn or force of nature, or I guess technician's crown, which is really good cash out. So try to go over 50 and then play this board. Basically your base is Ultras, Dragonlords, Sages, and when you initially transition, just play whatever 2-star 5 cost or your strongest board. Like even playing an early Lysandra when you transition into this is quite good. Most of the time, if you are going fast 9 and playing these legendaries, you will be facing boards that are weaker than you. So then playing a Lysandra and being able to farm some items, hopefully even some gloves, because there are a lot of TG users on your board that are able to benefit from it. So just being able to farm some items and play them onto your 5 costs are extremely valuable. And then your Irelia best in slots, either red buff or Morello, because she is able to apply that healing reduction extremely efficiently. And then items such as Runons, Guardbreaker, and Gunblade are very, very good on her as well and synergize with her kit. Azir is our secondary, and he requires a mana item, some sort of attack speed, and then some damage in order to actually do a decent amount of damage when he casts, so a decent amount of single target damage, and get his soldiers up as frontline ASAP. I guess final things, Ornn just gives an item to whichever 5 cost does not already have items, and Udyr wants to be in front of the enemy carry. Unless he can't cast, then you would just like swap him, like let's say like this, and then Lee Sin over here. So at least he still casts on the same side as the enemy carry. But if it's like 1-star, doesn't have any items, and he's in front of a like a 4 cost or like a 2-star 4 cost that can just kill him before he casts, then make sure that you move him so he can at least charge and do a little bit of CC. But this is the board you play, and that's how you play it, and then just generic augments depending on what your case is. So that has been the class today, the 5 best comps to play on the new B patch 14.8b. I'll do a quick rerun, and then we will enter the Q&A session. So main changes: Gnar line nerfed, trickshot line nerfed. Stage 3 Fortune has been nerfed, and the strategy of winning Stage 2 or tempoing through HP on Stage 2 and then sacking your HP for Fortune losses on Stage 3, the strategy in general is just a little bit weaker. And then Irelia's base AD buffed, as I just shown in the previous slide. What does this mean? It means comps that received the buffs from the 4-cost buffs in 14.8, but were not touched from the B patch are now stronger. The largest buffs are the nerfs of main comps, right? So this means Heavenly Kayn and Lee Sin are extremely good. This is the board you'd play on level 8. And then regarding augments, you want to be looking for the Heavenly +1 or just any generic combat augments that will help out your melee carries, especially support items. Next, we have our Ashe board, which does require a little bit of high roll in order to hit the best sets and Lysandra. If not, then we would just play around it depending on what we hit. We just play flexibly. We could just play even any 4-cost, like a random Annie 2, a random Kayn 2. Any 4-cost is just very, very strong right now. That is not Kai'Sa. And then Ashe best in slot. Ideally, we have 2 attack speed items, but then we could also splash in any Gunblade, Infinity Edge, or Deathblade. And itemize our Amumu, because an Amumu with 4 Porcelain is much better than an Alawi with potentially 4 Warden and 4 Arcanist. And then moving on to our Mythic Lillia. Once again, this composition has received a lot of buffs to its 4 costs: Annie's health, Lilia's health, Nautilus's health plus mana, and Lilia's damage. Make sure you have 4 Invoker in, so then you only need 1 source of mana, either your blue buff or adaptive. It just synergizes very well with her cast timing with Invoker. So you'll be casting promptly and not really wasting any auto attacks or wasting any time. And then your other items, 1 damage item, either Rabadon's Archangel or Jewel Gauntlets, and your Gunblade. Put your healing reduction on somebody else, like your Hui, your Azir, or your Alun. We already talked about the Kai'Sa board. It's still good, just not as strong, but you make sure you default the Bruiser board, because you can't always play the Dragonlord board, especially on level 8. The Bruiser board is much more feasible, and if you hit everything, then you transition when it would strengthen your board. So when you have some sort of 2 costs or 2 stars, that would be stronger than your 1 stars from the Bruiser board. And then finally, we have our Irelia board. Very, very strong, especially if you're able to hit your units on level 9. You'd play this from a tempo start or from some sort of tempo/econ augment like Epoch or Epic. And it caps pretty high. Once you hit everything, or at least your main units that have items, then you could go level 10, play a Soraka, and most of the time, you just win the game. So that has been everything. I'm going to stop the recording now. Thank you everyone for watching on YouTube. And we're going to enter a Q&A session for those who are watching this live in the voice channel. Thank you.